afternoon, students.
Good afternoon, Miss.
Before we start on to today's topic, I would like to recall our yesterday's topic, and if anyone tell me what's the topic we discussed yesterday. Yes,
Colonization in the Pacific.
colonization in the Pacific Islands. Yes. For today's topic, we'll be discussing Cubit and Ellis Islands colony. So we have two learning outcomes and two learning objectives. So yes, I would like you all to read with me the first learning outcomes. 1, 2, go. Discuss how the Cubit Islands and
Ellis Islands
were joined and later known as the Cubit and Ellis Islands colony. Describe the relationship of the two groups before and after World War II. Learning objectives. Understand the reason why Britain makes these two countries as one country. List down two disadvantages and advantages of Cubit Islands and Ellis Islands as one colony. So I'm going to discuss the British rule, and this is how the British first started its rule on the Cubit and Ellis Islands. So on May 1892, Captain Davis arrived in the Cubit and established protectorate government and hosted the Union Jack at Apimera. This is where he introduced law and order and protected the interests of the foreigners residing in the islands, which means they started to take control of the resources and the resources on the islands. Yes, so the next bullet point is the resident commissioner was selected from Britain, and schools were developed and laws were written for good standards of public health and welfare. Yes, this is where they start to build schools and laws, or they start to introduce their modern schools and laws to the island. And in 1906, the way system in which because in Kiribati or on the islands, we have the way system, like the way they took control, or they are the one who make the laws. But in 1906, the way system was disposed by the British, and this is where they set up villages and appointed people to be members of the island governments. So like most people on islands, or the commoner people, they get to be part of the island governments. And the last one is more local people got involved in politics and saw that colonial rule was unfair. Cubit and Ellis Islands. When did the Cubit and Ellis Islands became a British colony, and why these two islands became as one colony? In 1892, the Cubit and Ellis Islands were declared a British protectorate by the British, and later in the year 1916, they became one colony. And the reason why they were made to become one colony by the British is because this is much more cheaper for Britain to make two groups of islands as one colony. So we're going to discuss the relationship between Cubit and Ellis Islands before and after World War II. So we're going to discuss. First, we're going to discuss their relationship before the war. So before the war, Cuba and Ellis have like little contact until the declaration started to work on Panama, which is the phosphate mining. These two countries, they are very different because they have different culture but they get to live together in harmony, and they also get to respect each other's culture. And after the war, the disharmony between these two islands started to develop. Not only that, but the expansion of administration and services also developed. And they also like combine in one education, the Cubans and the Ellis people. And they also get the positions in the civil services and opportunities for further educations overseas. This is where the people from Ellis and Kiribati get the opportunity for further education overseas. The Cubatis were not very happy, like they did not happy with the law, or they did not happy with combining with the Ellis Islands, and they started to form the GNB. Constitutional also changed, and lastly, the Ellis people expressed their wish, in which they want to separate from the Cuban Islands. So after the war, disagreements started to develop, and they decided to like separate from each other. We'll come to our summary, and yes, this is what we've been covered in our previous notes. And the first bullet point is the Cuba and Ellis Islands were declared a British protectorate in 1892 and became a single colony in 1916. The last one is the relationship between Cuba and Ellis Islands before and after World War. Is that before the war, these two races were cooperated and worked in harmony. And after the war, these two races were not friendly, and yes, they wanted to separate. So, guys have questions before we proceed to our activity?
No.
No question. Okay. So for today's activity, we're going to work in two groups. So I will divide you into two groups. So yeah, you guys form one group, and these two form another group. So group 1, and this is group 2. For group 1, this is your question, and group 2, yeah, you will learn this question. Yeah, I will let you work on that for 5 minutes. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So if you guys done, one of you can present, or if you want to present, like the both of you, you can also present. I can do this. Okay, time's up, and I want the first group to go first.
A question for group 1. Discuss how the Cubans and Ellis Island were joined and later known as the Cubans and Ellis Island colony. The answer: in 1892, Gilbert and Ellis Island were declared by a British protectorate, and later in 1916, they have become as one colony because it is cheap for Britain to make these two group of islands as one of colony.
Thank you, Divinity. And is that clear? Do you have any questions?
No.
No. Okay, so as you mentioned, the two groups of islands were made as one colony because it is cheap for Britain. Okay, the next group.
For the question for group 2 is describe the relationship of the two groups before and after World War II. Before the war, little contact until the declaration and started to work on Barnett. For example, phosphate mining. After the war, growing disharmony between the Gilberts and Ellis Islands started to develop. Rapid expansion of administration and services.
Thank you, and that is a great answer. Yes, before the war they used to have like little contact, but there's like no disagreements against each other. But then after the war, there was a disharmony started to develop between them, and they started to like hate each other, and they want to separate from one. They like to separate from the Ellis Islands, want to separate from the Gilbert Islands. And yes, I think we've come to the end of our lesson for today, and I would like to thank you all, and I'll meet you next week. Thank you.